this video, we're going to look at atomic structure. Atoms have a central nucleus made up of protons and neutrons. So I'm going to use black to represent the neutrons and blue to represent the protons. And I'm going to use a positive symbol because protons are positive. Then around the nucleus, I'm going to draw the electron shells. These are sometimes called orbitals or energy levels, but we're going to call them electron shells. And then on the electron shells, we find the electrons. Now the nucleus by itself has a positive charge because it contains positive protons, and the electrons are negative. So if we look at the properties of the subatomic particles, we have protons, neutrons, and electrons. We're going to look at their charge, their relative mass, and their location. So protons have a charge of +1. Neutrons have a charge of neutral, or you can write this as 0, and electrons have a charge of -1. Relative mass refers to the mass of the particle relative to 1/12 of carbon-12. So we're comparing it to 1/12 of a carbon-12 atom. Protons have a relative mass of 1, neutrons have a relative mass of 1, and electrons have a relative mass of 0, or you can write this as 1/2000. Protons are found in the nucleus of the atom. Neutrons are found in the nucleus, and electrons are found in the electron shells around the nucleus. So from the periodic table, how do we determine how many protons, neutrons, and electrons an atom has? So if we look at each tile in the periodic table, it has a symbol for an element, and then it will have 2 numbers. Now the smaller number is called the atomic number, or the proton number. And the bigger number is called the mass number. Now the atomic number is the number of protons, and the mass number is the number of protons added to the number of neutrons. So if we look at this atom of carbon, we can see that it has 6 protons, and 12 take away 6 equals 6 neutrons. But how many electrons will it have? Well, because the carbon atom has no charge, it is neutral. It means the number of positive protons and negative electrons is the same, so it will have 6 electrons. Let's look at a more difficult example. Sodium. Sodium has a proton number of 11 and a mass number of 23. So how many protons, electrons, and neutrons will an atom of sodium have? 11 protons. Because it doesn't have a charge, it means the protons and electrons are the same, so it will also have 11 electrons, and then the mass number is the number of protons added to the number of neutrons. So if we take away the number of protons from the mass number, we're left with the number of neutrons. So one atom of sodium has 11 protons, 11 electrons, and 12 neutrons. Now I want you to try the same thing, and I want you to use a periodic table to find the number of protons, electrons, and neutrons for an atom of lithium, an atom of calcium, and an atom of sulfur. So if we find the atomic number and the mass number of these three atoms from the periodic table, lithium is 3,7, calcium is 20,40, and sulfur is 16,32, which means that lithium has 3 protons, 3 electrons, and 7 take away 3 is 4 neutrons. Calcium has 20 protons, 20 electrons, and 40 take away 20 is 20 neutrons. And sulfur has 16 protons, 16 electrons, and 32 take away 16 is 16 neutrons.